Sponsored by Squarespace. The empire, long divided, must unite. Long united, must divide. From Romance of the Three Kingdoms, this opening line succinctly summarizes the history of China. For every time China rose, there was a downfall. For every time China collapsed, there was a rebuild. It is in this cycle of destruction and reconstruction where we build our folktales, where we find our heroes, where we form our culture. History is our story. In part 1 of our series, we saw just that. From the fall of the Shang dynasty to the rise of Qin Shi Huangdi, stories emerged amidst great changes. Today, we'll continue through the early dynastic period and see how these stories shape the way we write and interpret our movies. This is part 2 of Journey through the cinematic themes and visuals of ancient China. Continuing from the Qin dynasty, its tyrannical rule was not to last. Mere 15 years after unification, the people rebelled. What followed was the 5-year-long Chu Han contention, one of the most dramatic wars in Chinese history. Dramatic because it's full of drama. You see, among the rebel forces, there were 2 leaders. Liu Bang was a grassroots hooligan, a politician who led with pragmatism. Xiang Yu, however, was a warrior of noble origin, who was mighty but also ruthless. Despite differences, these two would unite under a common goal, to topple the tyrannical Qin rule. They fought alongside each other and became sworn brothers. It is all the more heartbreaking when the two found themselves leading opposing armies for the one and only throne of China. Even from this short summary, you can tell the dramatic potential of its setting. Naturally, many films set in Han Dynasty are about this gripping tale. The Great Conqueror's Concubine chronicles the war from noble Xiang Yu's perspective. The titular concubine is the very same one from the opera Farewell My Concubine. White Vengeance focuses on the tale of Hongmen Banquet, a deadly reunion set up by Xiang Yu, who was secretly plotting to assassinate Liu Bang. The term Hongmen Banquet would become a Chinese idiom for invitation with a dangerous ulterior motive. Actually, a lot of Chinese idioms refer to this war. It was such a good story, it shaped our language. I can gush over it for another 2 hours, but we have to move on. Liu Bang, the underdog of the story, won the war and established the Han Dynasty, widely regarded as China's first golden age. Under his leadership, the Han government employed Confucianism as its state philosophy. Its effect can still be felt in China today. The dynasty also established the Silk Road and invented paper. The most aesthetically defining aspect, in my opinion, is the academic writing. From history to mathematics to astronomy and medicine, the numerous inventions and discoveries gave Han Dynasty an air of scholariness. Movies generally take a lot of fashion liberty, which is why I don't talk about it much. But Han Dynasty formal wear is often recognizable. Multi-layers, dark color, with neckbands similar to kimono. With all of these elements combined, on screen the Han Dynasty often looks very reserved and dignified, in stark contrast to the more flamboyant Tang Dynasty. Currently, 1 in every 6 people on Earth is Han Chinese, including yours truly. Our ethnic moniker came from this dynasty. Even the words we write are called Hanzi. That is the impact of China's first golden age. Great stories are worth sharing, and the best way to share them is with some pizzazz. That's why you shouldn't let social media restrict the content of your creativity. Instead, you should make a blog with Squarespace. Simple yet versatile, with Squarespace Fluid Engine, you can easily shape your website in any way you want. Express your personality with photos or videos. Build a shop, foster a community. If you want it, that's probably a tool to help you do it. Best of all, you are always in control of your content. You don't have to worry about the site shutting down, changing names, being flooded by hate comments. It is your little haven on which you own the rights to your content. Start your free trial at squarespace.com/accencinema. Use the code accencinema and you can get 10% off your first purchase. Who knows, maybe when trends shift and social media go the way of Vine, your blog will stand as part of internet history. If you have a story to share, fiction to write, why not make it impactful and long-lasting? Visit squarespace.com/accencinema and start today. We interrupt this golden age to bring you the single lamest dynasty in the entire history of China. Oh, it's over already? Nice, let's get back to the Han Dynasty then. The latter half of the Han Dynasty was duct-taped together. Though still part of the golden age, the government was growing weak. Eventually, people began carving out parts of China for themselves, until the factions coalesced into three kingdoms. Welcome to the Three Kingdoms period. This is a period of war heroes. Generals challenged each other to honorable duels. Warriors fought with the might of 1,000 men. Strategists defeat armies without a single soldier. Politicians savagely roast each other to literal death. It is the epic of all Chinese epics. Indeed, the Dynasty Warrior series merely took the heroic descriptions to a literal extreme. Not sure about the TT anime though. Today, we mostly know this period through Romance of the Three Kingdoms, a Yuan Dynasty novel that dramatizes the war. It is nigh impossible to view this part of history without viewing it through the lens of the book and its adaptations. Just as an example, classic Chinese heroic tales often follow the formula found in this novel. Guan Yu rose to prominence for bravely challenging and one-shotting a fierce enemy general. The same bravery would turn into hubris, leading to his death. Zhuge Liang's wit built a kingdom, but when the new king no longer valued him, he died a broken man. This meteoric rise and fall is everywhere. It fits the aforementioned Xiang Yu, later heroes like Yue Fei, and even more recent inventions like Chen Zhen. Three Kingdom heroes are so iconic, so beloved, their on-screen aesthetic often leave little room for interpretation. Notice how many versions of Guan Yu have shown. Yet I'm almost certain no one is confused by that. Even in Zhang Yimou's Shadow, which is set in a fictional period, you can still tell which character is supposed to be Guan Yu. From the skin tone to the facial hair to his weapon of choice. When a Chinese person sees any of these elements, they think of Guan Yu and the Three Kingdoms. This characteristic applies to the majority of the main characters. That is how ubiquitous they are within our culture. Stoic and loyal, complex and flawed, hundreds of heroes lived and died in this turbulent time. They refused to remain still and surged up, becoming the waves on the river of history. This is the grandeur we seek in Chinese heroes. With all that heroic bloodshed, it's no wonder why John Woo would choose to make Red Cliff as his magnum opus. And thus, China's first golden age ended. The state of Wei emerged as the victor and established the following Jin Dynasty. When discussing Chinese history, people often lump Jin together with the following northern and southern dynasties. Dubbed Wei Jin Nan Bei Chao, this period saw multiple concurrent powers splitting China apart. States and dynasties rose and fell at light speed. It was a messy 300 years. It's also the awkward middle child sandwiched between two golden ages. That's why there are many movies about it. I, however, have a soft spot for this era, and it's for one simple reason. Cross-dressing ladies. That's right, for whatever reasons, there was not one but two Chinese folktales about women dressed as men. Let's start with the first one, the Butterfly Lover. Set in the Jin Dynasty, this is a romantic folktale about Zhu Yingtai, a rebellious young woman who disguised herself as a man to sneak into a school to study. For reference, school was for boys only for much of Chinese history. While in school, she met Liang Shanbo, whom he shared a dorm for 3 years. Day in and day out, they gradually fell in love. Tragedy struck when Zhu was forced into an arranged marriage. Heartbroken, Liang died shortly after. Zhu, as one last attempt to rebel, escaped from her weddings and leapt into Liang's grave to be with him. From the grave emerged two butterflies, and they flew away into the sky. It's Chinese Romeo and Juliet, except it's actually a love story, a feminist story, an LGBT story, and also written 1,000 years before Shakespeare. There are countless TV and movie adaptations for this fantastic story, but if you can track it down, the 1994 version, The Lovers, directed by Tsui Hark, is my recommendation. From the incredible chemistry between the leads to Tsui Hark expanding its gender equality theme, it is entertaining, gripping, and thought-provoking. Who knew a 1,000-year-old story can be so relevant today? Well, I know, because set in the Northern and Southern dynasties is the second story and my personal favorite, Mulan. A woman disguised as a man and joined the army to spare her father from conscription. This badass story needs no introduction. Adaptations of Mulan are all over the place, but most scholars believe the story originated and took place in the Northern Wei dynasty, a dynasty established by the Xianbei people. We, the Han Chinese, merely adopted the story. Maybe one day I'll talk about the original poem in detail, but for now, I want to focus on how the story is interpreted. Broadly, there are two ways to interpret this story. The original text made very explicit that this story is about gender equality. The poem ends with Mulan explaining why no one ever realizes she was a woman. The whole drama about her and her father was notably absent from the poem. But when presented as a story and not a poem, the emotional struggle of sacrificing for her parents is just so much juicier. So for a very long time, the story was taught primarily as a lesson on filial piety and patriotism. Until the Disney version came along. It's an uncomfortable realization, but the Disney adaptation has since become the de facto version for most. Maybe the animators weren't biased by pop culture and was able to read the poem as it was. The resulting story had a much greater focus on the poem's original thesis of female empowerment. I remember this changed how the poem was taught in our school. The patriotism angle became downplayed, while filial piety and gender equality became the focus. Crazy, right? But it's perhaps appropriate. The Ballad of Mulan originated from the cultural clash between the Xianbei people and the Han Chinese. It is only natural for it to be reinvented when Chinese and American culture collided. Those are the stories of this era, surprisingly progressive, still very much relevant. Internationally, Chinese history is all about cool philosophies and badass warriors. But to me, Chinese history always has a feminine touch, and this era offers a glimpse into this aspect. This period should not be overlooked. Hopefully, more movies will come along and do these stories justice. With this, we have covered another 800 years. Yet, we are still 1,500 years away from present day. It's hard to fathom the fact that we are making movies about millennia-old stories. What makes them so enduring? Heroes rise and fall, empires unite and divide. Thus, it has ever been. In this motion of history, unstoppable and ever-changing, we find the greatest stories. The ones not only worth telling, but also reinventing and reinterpreting. History is alive. That is what makes it enduring. Come back next time as China entered the Second Golden Age, welcomed its first and only female emperor, became kinda sexy for some reason, and forged the definitive Chinese aesthetic most people are familiar with. See you next time.